Yeah, good morning to this morning's event. I'm very excited about it. I'd like to welcome all our attendees. So we've got 36 people online now, and there's another 36 again, probably, who are still waking up and getting their coffee. So I'd like to welcome our guests today. So I'll take you through our esteemed panel of guests. I'm very excited to hear from all of them. Our new friends to BISA. So we've got a lot of people who are not members yet. Hopefully we'll get some new members after this event. And then our current members, of course, thanks to your ongoing support of BISA. And please feel free to say hello on the chat on the side and let us know where you are, where you come from. And you kind of probably let us know who's awake as well and who's on their second espressos of the day. So today was supposed to be a hybrid event in Johannesburg, but obviously we had to make that decision to go virtual. So thanks everybody for your patience with that. So I'll just give you a little bit of a background on what is BISA, and then what are we trying to achieve today, and then who's actually going to speak and what are we going to speak about. So BISA is Business Ireland Southern Africa, and we're a business networking organization run by volunteers. And our goal is really to create business and investment opportunities in and between South Africa and Ireland. So this is one of our new initiatives to do a sectoral event to try and create that buzz, create awareness about what's out there and what opportunities are there and what gaps are there to be filled on both sides, and then what incentives there are as well. So lots of info to come. So hopefully everybody can sit back and relax and listen to our speakers, and then post some questions on the chat. We'll try and get to them during the meeting if possible, and if we can't get to them, then I'll save time in the end and we can go through some of the questions then. So if you're posting a question on the chat, please include who you're asking the question to if it's not obvious, because if it's during somebody's talk and then we come to it at the end, it mightn't be so obvious who's actually it's directed to. So please, yeah, just ask your question and who is it to. And so if you'd like any further information about BISA, we have our social media channels and our website, businessireland.coza, so please go there. Or please reach out to any of the committee here in Joburg. We have sister chapters in Cape Town, and we have Kenya and Harare as well, in Durban. So we're trying to expand our network. And it's nice to see lots of new names here, actually. So hopefully our network is getting stronger already this morning. So yeah, so I'll go through our speakers now. Just before then, I'll hand over to my co-hosts. So our second speaker, because I'll introduce our co-host last, I suppose, is our ambassador to Ireland, ambassador of Ireland to South Africa. It's Fionnuala Gilsenan. She's here. Calling in from Pretoria, and she's going to discuss some great initiatives that the Irish government have to create partnerships between the two countries and to help create sustainable development, impacting economic, social, and environmental projects. So it's very exciting to hear about what initiatives are there, and to create a bit more awareness around that. We also have Mr. John Cullen. So he's the MD and the co-founder of Auranta. I see your name there, John. Auranta is an Irish agri-food company, and they were a recipient of the AADP in 2020. So we'll hear a little bit about their story. He's calling in from Ireland. I haven't seen him yet, just the blank screen on Zoom. So I'm excited to meet John for the first time. The third John of the day will be Dr. John Purchase. I saw you there, John. Good morning. And he's the CEO of the Agriculture Business Chamber of South Africa, which is AgBiz. So he's an expert on the agriculture sector in South Africa. So we get to hear about this side of the countries. And then we have Ms. Claire Reid as well, who's the CEO of Real Gardening. So it's one of the most accessible SA agri-food companies of recent times for people not in the sector, such as myself. So she's going to discuss business and the social impact of her enterprise. She kindly offered to donate some goodie bags of her products to the in-person meeting, but unfortunately we're going to have to save that until the next one, Claire, when we're all actually there in person. So like I said, today trying to create some opportunities and awareness. So it's quite ambitious, but I hope there'll be partnerships created and some awareness created that people can actually come together, and we'll try and share as much information as possible afterwards and in the chat there. And I still see there's people still joining. So good morning to everyone again. And so please sit back and relax, have a coffee and listen to our speakers. So I want to hand over to my co-host, who is Dr. Ureshnie Govender, who is our very own BISA events leader. Put this together and had some brilliant ideas for this event. So thank you, Ureshnie. She's our agriculture expert on the panel. So I'll hand over to you, Ureshnie, who's going to tell us about Ireland and the agriculture sector there, and then bring in our rest of our speakers. So over to you, Ureshnie.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for that excellent introduction. I don't know about being an agri expert, but it's definitely an honor to be a member of BISA. And I must say, Johnny, this was, as you know, a team effort. So a huge thank you to everyone in advance for what you've done today. So to kick off, I'll be sharing my screen. Can you guys see that? David, is that up?
Yep, good to go. Just make it full screen, Ureshnie.
Okay, I will do. All right, so to kick off, I'm going to give you a little teaser and a little taste into agriculture in Ireland, and a few trends and a few teasers again in areas of potential collaboration. So, I mean, as you all know, Ireland has over 200 years of farming heritage, and this agricultural knowledge and innovation has evolved over those years to make the agri sector a vital indigenous industry that influences not only daily life, but politics and the economy of this country. Now, the agri sector includes farming machinery such as Agritech and agri-related products, but obviously fishing and forestry, food and beverage. And a little fact for those who don't know, this is a country of just under 5 million people, but the agri-food sector is capable of producing enough food to feed about 35 million people. Now that's pretty impressive. And despite Brexit and COVID, which hit the entire world hard, the global demand for Irish agri-products decreased by only 2% in 2020. Now this was total edible and non-edible agriculture exports to the value of about 14.3 billion in 2020. So if we go a little more into those trends, to talk about those trends in a few sectors, I'd like to start with the dairy sector. So in looking at the dairy sector, this is about a sector that has just over 17,000 farms. These are family-run farms, which in, 2019 amounted to about 1.5 million cattle cows. And these cows are fed over a 95% diet of grass and graze outdoors for over 240 days in wonderfully green pastures. So in 2019, each of these farms and their wonderful cows produced about 7.98 billion liters of milk. Now this was 5% greater in increase than the previous year, and included a higher fat and protein content. And this serves over 140 markets globally. And in 2020, the dairy exports increased by about 5.2 billion euro, especially looking at butter, nutritional powders, and other vital dairy products. Now, the top 5 export markets for Ireland would be the UK, Netherlands, China, Germany, and the US. However, if you look at this table here, I'm not too sure if my cursor helps any, but exports to Africa, overall, Northern and obviously Sub-Saharan Africa, had 662, I think that is about million euro, which was about the second highest in 2020, which I think is pretty significant and something to look out for. Now, when looking at the meat and livestock industry, I pulled together a graph from Board Beer here, and this gives you a great breakdown of the different types of meat and livestock products that Ireland exports. So you're looking at beef, pig meat, sheep meat, poultry, and live export. So Ireland has been renowned as the 4th largest exporter in beef globally. However, COVID-related challenges have altered and hurt beef demands, especially in Europe. But if you're looking at Irish pig meat and sheep meat, poultry, and live exports, these still increased over 2020 and were quite significant. And another interesting known fact is that in South Africa, where we are significant poultry consumers, the poultry consumption drove imports from Ireland by up to 22% to about 32 million euro in 2020. Live exports or live animal exports were also pretty high in 2020 in North Africa, particularly Algeria and Libya, and in Europe. So in looking at seafood and alcohol, taking obviously like both of these like separate, COVID-related challenges were also seen in both of these industries. However, again, Africa still accounted for 23% of Irish seafood exports in 2020. And seafood was particularly strong in terms of like the demand in Nigeria, Cameroon, and Egypt, where we saw increases in pelagic fish in 2020, with Nigeria being the strongest market, where it grew by 100% to about 60 million odd euro. Now, there seems to be a growing demand for pelagic fish, and the view is that pelagic fish would be affordable, especially during a pandemic compared to other seafood protein sources. Now, in terms of alcohol, obviously we all enjoy a little bit of Irish whiskey or Guinness or good old Baileys, but without a shock or surprise here, we know that Irish whiskey dominates the export sector globally. And in 2019, 55% of alcohol exports were whiskey driven. That was about 77 million euro. Now, South Africa is the 6th strongest export market for Irish whiskey. Now, again, this was hurt by those COVID-related alcohol import bans, but I'm sure this will definitely increase once in the coming months, or has already increased in the coming months. Gin, as you may know, is also a huge opportunity in South Africa, where gin is the 6th biggest market in the world in South Africa by volume, and the 10th biggest market globally by value. And this is also quite a strong growing market in Ireland, and probably a great opportunity as well for exports into South Africa. Now, when I look at another sector in terms of agri-tech and agri-products, although I'd like to put in trends, I'll talk about it in terms of collaboration. Now, the agri-tech and agri-export product sector is pretty vast and includes your smart farming solutions, crop products, animal nutrition, milking, and grassland and barn equipment, as well as farming equipment, as well as agri-software. Now, this is built on a strong system of lean system manufacturing that focuses on quality and its strong adherence to EU standards, and definitely a respected reputation across sectors. It's built on ongoing research and development to develop cutting-edge technology and solutions, and this is built on a foundation of government funds and supported by world-class agri-experts. The agri-tech sector and agri-product sector is also constantly innovating to develop solutions for local and global customers. And their reputation, as you know, is based on renowned dairy and beef farmers and processors who obviously, as mentioned, develop their farming sector on one of the most productive grass systems in the world. And this also depends on their sophisticated innovation used globally. Now, the collaboration here, where I see strong growth for South Africa, which exists and I believe we can continue to grow upon, is where Irish companies enter new markets by developing relationships. And this happens when they develop relationships with key partners on the grounds to introduce their solutions or to adapt and develop their solutions based on the market need. Now, you will hear from Auranta and their experience in South Africa, and obviously the Africa Agri-Food Development Program, which helps support the existing South African partnerships. And based on such programs, and based on obviously events such as these and trade and export agencies such as Enterprise Island and Board Beer, there are great opportunities to connect with Irish companies, not just in South Africa, but obviously those that are looking to enter the market, and then create these collaborations that would obviously support sustainable and mutual beneficiation. So with Enterprise Island and Board Beer, they support obviously both agri-tech and food-related products and services to enter and thrive in local and international markets. And again, as mentioned, BISA is an excellent platform to tap into knowledge, whether it is about agriculture or any other sector, and to also help you in networking in South Africa and between South Africa and Ireland. So just to end off and a little bit more on collaboration. So Ireland is looking to become a world leader in sustainable food systems by 2030. So what does this mean? What this means is that Ireland seeks to become a global leader of innovation for sustainable food and agricultural systems to produce safe, nutritious, high-value food that tastes good and protects and enhances natural and cultural resources, contributing to vibrant rural and coastal communities in the national economy. The vision here is economic sustainability for all-round profit, social sustainability for broad benefits, and environmental sustainability that obviously has a positive impact on the environment. Now, the impact would obviously be global, but with a strong emphasis on Africa. And here, the collaboration that I see is towards sustainable development of Africa's agri-food sector and rural economy to improve nutritional solutions by food security. And the opportunity, I believe, exists in creating stronger relationships between innovative Irish and African companies to join forces. And I'd be as bold as to say that to create stronger relationships between chambers and obviously between governments. And with that, I'd like to close and hand over to our ambassador for South Africa, Ambassador Fionnuala Gilsenan, who will talk more about the Africa Agri-Food Development Program, and obviously the value in that program and the stronger collaborations and relationships that have been developed and can be developed in South Africa with Irish companies and South African companies joining forces to tap into such funding sources. Thank you.
Ureshnie, thank you very much. And, and that was just a very interesting presentation. And again, it really shows very clearly the strengths in the Irish agriculture sector, you know, which goes from primary production right through to some very sophisticated agri-tech, and particularly, I think, in the food ingredients area, and with a huge emphasis now, I think, on nutrition and quality food. We're really in a very exciting period, I think, for agribusiness, because there's a lot of new challenges on the horizon that governments and farmers and others involved in the sector are really sorry, excuse me, that others in the sector are really thinking about these kinds of challenges. And of course, there are issues like climate change and like how to build sustainable food systems. And I think, as Ureshnie has said, Ireland is really a leader in this area. And you know, just recently, Ireland engaged in national dialogues driven in a way by the prospect of the UN Food Systems Summit, which is happening in September 2021. But really also because we're developing a new agri-strategy in Ireland that's looking at some of the big challenges around climate change and how we can address some of the challenges that arise from our current production modes in the agriculture sector, and some very interesting innovations occurring in that sector, particularly looking at the opportunities that there are between the Irish third level sector and research to assist farmers to get to zero emissions by 2030. And that's not just happening in Ireland, but South Africa also launched its national dialogues recently, and I listened to the minister's opening statements. You know, there was a lot of similar themes emerging from those dialogues and the minister's emphasis, particularly around the need for sustainable food systems, the need for better functioning agriculture markets that really respond to farmers and to their needs to get product into market, and then looking at sustainable consumption. And of course, within all of that, the private sector has an incredibly important role to play. So when you look at all of that, this business networking event is incredibly well timed, and just a nod to John and Ureshnie for putting it together. I think it's really very useful for us to focus at a sector level, and it allows us to get a constituency online that share the same passions and the same interests. You know, already in South Africa, we have some very successful Irish agri-businesses. And give a nod to Dawn Foods and to Kerry Group, who are both have invested in South Africa. They're very significant employers, and I think both very actively looking at this market for further investment. So for those of you who are online, maybe thinking about engagement, there's already 2 big players in the market that can give you some excellent insight. So I think, you know, South Africa and Ireland bring different strengths to the table. There's a lot of possibility, I think, of learning from the Irish agri-food sector. I know the South African side are quite interested in our owner-occupied family farm structure, which is really unique in Europe. And something that I think has a lot of resonance in Africa, and particularly in South Africa, for those farmers trying to move from subsistence level farming to something that's more economically viable. As I mentioned earlier, Ireland is a leader when it comes to global research and innovation in the agriculture sector. In fact, we rank 2nd globally. And this is also a theme within the Irish Embassy. We've really emphasised the importance of linking Irish and South African researchers in this area. And we want to see over the next while a much stronger connection then between the research that we're supporting and then business engagement and private sector, both by South African and Irish businesses. So this morning I undertook to give just a little bit of background about our Africa Agri-Food Development Programme, and this is a programme that's been running for a while. It's a joint collaboration between the Department of Foreign Affairs and our own Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. And essentially what it is, you know, what its objective is to encourage partnerships, business partnerships, joint ventures, if you like, between the Irish agri-food sector and African companies, in this case in South Africa. And it's really looking at how do we build sustainable industries, build markets for local produce and support mutual trade and investment. It also has a very strong, you know, social dimension. So it's looking at how we can ensure that we contribute to sustainability and to local market access, particularly for farmers. The programme provides grant funding of up to 50% of total project costs to Irish registered agri-food companies who are seeking to conduct feasibility studies or full agri-food commercial projects with African partners. So there's quite considerable funding available for feasibility studies, but the important thing is that there has to be a partner identified in the market. So it's really looking at ways in which we can foster that idea of joint ventures between Irish companies and South African companies, and you'll hear a little bit about how that works out in practical terms when John from Auranta just talks through his experience. I mean, in addition to the AADP, which will launch its call for proposals soon, the Embassy also cooperates obviously very closely with Enterprise Ireland and with BISA, and we're really glad to have this networking organisation in South Africa, which is so active at the moment, despite all of the challenges that we know we have, particularly at the moment. So I think, you know, those kinds of supports in the market, particularly because Enterprise Ireland provides really good information and market analysis to companies who are interested in agriculture and agri-tech. One of the other things that we're doing, which I've just connected a little to this whole agenda, is we're developing a tech challenge fund. In fact, we're also going to launch a call for technology young tech entrepreneurs to engage with our tech challenge fund in the next number of months. And we're, you know, putting that challenge fund together with some support from Enterprise Ireland and also the Technology Innovation Agency here in South Africa. So the idea again is really to encourage young South African entrepreneurs to connect with Irish entrepreneurs. And that can be in agri-tech, but it can be in a whole range of areas. And we are really looking forward to seeing some young South African entrepreneurs, particularly women, go to Ireland as a result of this initiative and make those connections and kind of get an insight into how Ireland manages its innovation environment, if you like. In addition to that, I think we should always remember that we have some very good research programs at the EU level. You know, there's Horizon 2020, which is just finishing up, and there's Eurostars, and there's also the Eureka platform for research, development and innovation. So all of those programs offer us opportunities to engage in research between Ireland and South Africa, and we're working very closely with all of the stakeholders here in South Africa to make sure that we really take advantage of that and build further on the research that we have. So overall, I think there are huge opportunities for us at this particular time. Ireland has a very strong foreign policy around support for the sustainable development goals. Our international policy around a better world really focuses on the importance of food and food systems. On nutrition, on the role of the private sector in ensuring that people have access to food, that there's greater availability of food. And we recognise that the private sector really has an important role to play within this. So I'm really delighted to see so many people online that share, if you like, these sets of objectives, and particularly people who are in the private sector and others who I see online that are interested in the whole area of networking between Irish business and South Africa business and businesses more broadly in the Southern Africa region. So Ureshnie, I will leave it at that, and of course happy to answer any questions that pop up in the chat while listening to the next set of speakers. So I hand back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I really enjoyed that. I think it's encouraging to know that the dialogue that Ireland has going on and South Africa has going on, like, walk the same path, and that we're both addressing the issue of sustainable food systems, and we're both addressing the issue of climate change, and that there are research opportunities and collaborative opportunities such as the AADP and soon to be the tech challenge that are available for Irish companies as well as South African and African companies to join forces. Thank you for sharing that, and guys and girls, keep an eye out for the AADP call, which will open for this year, as well as the tech fund that will be launched by the embassy. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Mr. John Cullen, the Managing Director of Auranta. I'd like to say that when I previously worked at Enterprise Ireland, I had the opportunity of working with John. And John, it's an absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing in South Africa. And I think that everybody will really enjoy listening to your story about who Auranta is, what you've done in the market, and how the AADP will be helping you in the market to grow further with your South African partners. So with that, John, take it away.
Thank you, Ureshnie. I'm just going to share a presentation here. Just one second. One sec. Thank you very much. As Ureshnie said, we availed of the AADP fund in 2020, but we've actually been working in South Africa since about 2015. Basically, we're a small Irish ag tech company. We specialize in animal feed mainly, and in tech ingredients, and our main mission is to sustain animal health naturally, and we're looking at how to remove the use of prophylactic antibiotics into animal feed, and to protect and improve performance in animals in a safe, sustainable way. When we got into the market, initially, and we founded the company, myself and my colleague, Dr. Patrick Ward, who's a microbiologist, in 2013. We were a HPSU with Enterprise Ireland from August 2013, and we were based out of the University Nova UCD, which is the incubator section of University College Dublin. We went and had a look at we basically, myself and my colleague were involved in food packaging, and we were looking at sustainable, safe ways of actually being able to manufacture food packaging to improve shelf life in food and to basically reduce the amount of waste. And we were looking at natural antimicrobial products to see if we can kind of do that. And we started looking at different plant extracts, and it became obvious quite quickly that one, it was quite difficult to scale in food packaging, and the second area was there was really opportunities in feed. So we had a look at the market initially, and we basically saw that there was a lot of poorly researched it was a very noisy marketplace with lots of products out in the market that didn't have a whole lot of science behind them. And as we were kind of a scientist and an engineer, we decided to kind of take a really kind of good look from a science point of view. At this time, we were also very lucky to meet a group of guys in Thailand who were vets, who had basically traded in the big cars and the jobs with the pharma companies and wanted to really get in looking at other ways of sustaining animal health besides just medication. And while medication obviously has its place, we just wanted it to be used properly, really. So we basically have worked with them since then, and the first places, believe it or not, we actually sold product was actually in Thailand, not in Ireland, not in Europe. Our kind of approach is kind of observation, then gut modeling, animal trials, veterinary collaborations, and then farm observations. We've been actually working in South Africa, as I said, since about 2015 with the product called Ureshnie. We have a partner down there called VetPack. We've now increased that to include AfriVet, and we're starting to look at the whole dairy industry. Up to now, it was really pigs that we'd worked with. And in this thing is slightly out of date. Oragard is our new kind of pet product, which we're also talking to the guys down in South Africa with. And then we've just very recently started to look at aquaculture and looking at feed for fish and for seafood and that kind of area. Just to give you a very quick idea, if you look at the One Health, and this, I suppose, the guys in Thailand really taught us that they'd left looking for another solution, and it wasn't that they had any great need to kind of throw their careers in the bin, but basically the antibiotics that they'd been selling were starting not to work. And if you look at the estimate now is probably somewhere between 700,000 and 1 million people die per year due to antibiotic resistance. That's projected to grow to 10 million in 2050 and at a huge economic cost. Put that in perspective, about 8.2 million people currently die from cancer every year, and COVID to date has unfortunately killed 3.8 million people. So this is not a very obvious problem, but that doesn't take it away from the fact that it's a very big problem. Going back to ourselves, so what we're basically about is how can we use phenolic compounds such as kind of citrus extracts and combine them with other natural ingredients. And what we're trying to do is improve gut health. I suppose in a nutshell, what we do is we try and stop animals suffering from diarrhea in a nutshell, and basically, so what we're trying to do is basically improve tight junctions in the gut and reducing chances of infection, boost the immune system. We have proven antiviral solutions, we also have very strong anti-inflammatory properties and antioxidant properties. All of these help reduce the rate of infection and reduce the requirements for medication, except for when it's needed for actually really sick animals. Our products are all sold as food ingredients or feed ingredients. As I said previously, we basically went back to the drawing board about 2015. We had started kind of dipping our toe into this market and realized that we weren't going to win any marketing battles, but we were pretty into the science side of things. So we linked up with AFBI, the Agriculture, Food and Bioscience Institute in Belfast, and also UCD and a number of other institutes such as the London School of Tropical Medicine. And in the last kind of 5 or 6 years, we've produced 9 internationally peer-reviewed papers. And we've actually got 2 more in the pipeline across a whole range of areas, from basically antimicrobial effect across E. coli, looking at cryptococcidia in calves and in cattle. And we've done a number of university trials and also infection trials where we actually kind of compare the product and infect animals, and just to see if the products actually work. Just to give a very brief kind of technical, what we're trying to do is improve the gut. And the first slide here, basically the villi are the lining which absorb nutrition in the gut. This is where we get how we process our food. And basically what we're trying to do is create a much healthier villi. These, in the second slide, you're looking down, and these are the epithelial cells in the gut lining, and this is where your infections catch hold and make you sick. And this is what it should look like if it's healthy. So our products are proven to basically improve gut health by improving the villi, keeping the tight junction integrity in place, and to produce more mucus to protect the cells. It's all a bit kind of rough this hour of the morning, but it looks nice in this picture compared to real life, believe me. But basically what we're trying to do is just create a situation where the animals are healthy and we build natural immunity. We don't go in to mimic antibiotics. We go in at low dosage levels into animals and basically allow the animal's own immune system to kind of build up its natural immunity. This is my colleague Pat Ward. We've started to spread the message out around the world. We've just signed a 3-year deal with PMI Land O'Lakes in North America. We've been working in Ireland for obviously since we started. We're also quite strong in Egypt, and we've been working there for a number of years. We've been, as I said, we've been in South Africa since 2015. We've come to Africa the first time. We were involved in a AADP project back in 2014, and we were down in Kenya and Ethiopia. We weren't ready to kind of go into those countries. We didn't have the products researched enough, and we didn't have the money at the time to do it. We did stay working in South Africa, and that now has become our beachhead for how we get back into the rest of Africa. So basically, at the moment, we're established in 15 countries and we're in developing markets in another 23 countries. This is just to give you an idea. If you said the green ones are where we're actually working and selling on a regular basis. The new agreements have been signed in 2021 for North America, Australia, and New Zealand, and we're into the Philippines, and then we're looking at other areas that, like with the deals we're doing at the moment, we're looking to get into the rest of Europe, and we've just signed up a distributor in Russia. So we're starting to get the message out there. We're starting to work with, we are having worked with some of the large players, some of, as I said, Land O'Lakes. We also work with Tyson's, with BRF, with the others. We've done work with Lambia and Dairy Gold and whatever in Ireland as well. So basically, why or what are we about? Well, basically, farming has been challenged, and it's going to be challenged even more, like heat, humidity, promote disease, kind of, you're basically seeing much more challenging standards in terms of, I think, everybody is very well aware of, say, COVID, but maybe not so many are aware of the fact that 40% of our pig population got wiped out globally in 2019 with African swine fever. And because most of it was in China and Southeast Asia, it hasn't become huge news around here, but it was devastating. So it just goes to show you how something can get out of hand and really cause a lot of problems. And we are starting to see a much more open approach and a much more accepting approach to other options other than heading straight into medication. Basically, why sub-Saharan Africa? Well, first of all, it's a growth market. We've established relationships down in South Africa, as I said, over a number of years. We know AfriVet for about 3 years. We know VetPack for, as I said, for 7 years now at this stage. And we see South Africa as being a really good place for us to start, build up a kind of a beachhead, as I said, and drive forward. This is exactly what we did in Thailand. We built up a range of relationships over kind of a number of years. And to be honest, without the work from the Thai vets in terms of how the products actually worked in the field, we'd never got where we did in terms of the research that we've done. So we did an awful lot of work on the formulations and on the recipes and whatever, and the guys did a huge amount of work on the actual trying and testing the products in the actual field in a cost-effective way that we never could have afforded as a small startup company. But it did allow us to build a very, very strong database, which a data set, which I think would stand up with anybody in our sector. Obviously, we're looking to replicate that for Africa. We want to get more of an understanding to actually what are the situations on the ground. Like when we brought our products into Thailand in poultry, we were able to remove the use of antibiotics. The reason that the companies we were dealing with wanted to take them out was their customers who wanted antibiotic-free meat. And basically, the nice thing in the end that when we did streamline the solution, the farmers that were actually producing the chickens, their profitability went up by 22%. So it's not something that people expect people to pay more for. We expect to compete in the real world and to be able to go toe to toe with any products that are out there. Basically, we are relying, as Ureshnie said earlier, Ireland has a reputation for being able to feed people. That figure came up 35 million already. I have to say that the Department of Foreign Affairs, especially in Africa, have been absolutely phenomenal help to us. Anytime we've asked for help or tried to use them, the help has been second to none. And we work with Enterprise Ireland all over the world. And again, I met Ureshnie when she was back in her EI days, but in fairness, anywhere we've gone in the world, EI have been a tremendous help, and many countries, I'm sure, are jealous of the support that companies from Ireland, no matter how small they are, can actually look outside of Ireland and drive on the business. Basically, the program we got involved with was it's a combination, as everyone knows, with Department of Foreign Affairs and Department of Agriculture. We're basically looking to, first of all, how can we adapt our products to suit the marketplace in South Africa and then the rest of Africa, and then from there to basically build partnerships and build sustainable growth in Africa. As I said, we went on our own into Egypt. That's gone pretty well, but now we want to start at the other end and work our way up the continent. So we think in the next kind of 5 years that South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa will be probably the biggest, one of our biggest markets. Without their help, and also like it's not just we're not looking just to come in and to work directly with the larger companies here. We really do want to kind of get down to the emerging farmers, and especially the emerging female farmers. We're starting to develop basically small little industries, and our partners in VetPack especially, but also in AfriVet, will take our products and repack them in Africa into the type of format that will make it accessible for the smaller farmers, and to basically be able to give a safe and sustainable solution to people down here to basically produce their animals. So that's, and I suppose without the AADP, a company our size would not be able to come down here because obviously it's very far from us. The risk is very high in terms of just finding our way on the ground. But with the help that we've got and with our partners, I think we have an opportunity to create something really special in the next kind of 3 to 5 years. Obviously, some of the challenges can be great, like we're waiting, getting projects registered and that kind of thing can be slow. The regulatory environment varies compared to what we're used to, but having said that, we're much better at that than we were. The logistics, again, it's a long way away, but again, once we get the volumes to a reasonable size, it'll be much more easy than it is right now. But like to date, we haven't had any problem getting product down here. Basically, the pathogen profile tends to be more or less, okay, there's some differences, but in general, they seem to be the same. So the work that we've done in other places is applicable here. There are some different methods of doing business, methods of farming and whatever, but as I said, our partners are helping take care of that side of things. And they're also helping us with the marketing communications. And like everywhere else, it's a case of learning the culture, meeting more people and kind of getting to understand what's required and really understand what the difficulties are and offer solutions that make sense, as opposed to imposing something that mightn't actually work at all, okay? So that's, again, just looking at what are we trying to do. So we're basically trying to increase productivity, as I said. Our area is to basically prevent problems, allow animals to build up their natural immunity, and to basically do that both at the large farm level, but all commercial farm level, but also at the subsistence level. Our technology is cutting edge. As I said, we've published papers across 9 different international peer review journals. So what we want to do is basically take our technology and be able to take it out of the box like a mobile phone and land it here ready to go. Obviously, the goals are to improve food security and then gender equality, and to really kind of give a product that's usable to anybody that wants to use it, that it's not out of anybody's reach, and to do that by packaging it in a way that actually makes sense and can be bought at if someone has 20 chickens or doing 2 million chickens a week, we want to be able to have, like, offer the product to that person at an affordable price, where they can get the benefits, okay? And that's it, guys, okay?
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing your journey.
Yeah, just tried to undo that or stop sharing.
No problem.
Where am I going? Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
You got it. Okay, Grant. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I really appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that journey. I mean, as you said, you started in South Africa in 2015, so it's been quite a path. There've been lots of learning lessons, and I mean, what I take away is that this is a perfect example of an Irish company that's come into the market and that doesn't just seek to make a profit, but seeks to obviously take people along with you. I mean, you're looking to empower women farmers, emerging farmers, and you're doing it. You did it even beyond the AADP, but the AADP serves as a fantastic level of support to get you there even faster. So I really appreciate those learning lessons, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind if others actually reach out to you.
No, not at all. No problem. Absolutely not. Anywhere we can help, we're more than happy to. Okay.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. Much appreciated.
Cheers. Thanks. No problem. Bye bye.
Great. So next, we have Dr. John Purchase, the CEO of the Agricultural Business Chamber. Now, Dr. Purchase is an expert with an immense amount of experience and knowledge in South Africa's agricultural sector. But he doesn't just have experience in South Africa's sector, he basically has a firm understanding of agriculture across the board. But for today, who better to talk about South Africa's challenges, government and industry-related opportunities than Dr. Purchase. So with that, Dr. Purchase, you can go on.
Thank you very much, Ureshnie, and I just want to share the screen quickly. And thank you very much for the invitation, and a good morning to the ambassador, and good morning to everyone. I found the first presentations and very interesting, and obviously a lot of similarities. Mine is just a high-level overview of the South African agricultural situation, especially as regards to challenges and the opportunities for growth and collaboration. And these will come out quite clearly. I think when we start, let me just from beginning. Does that look better? Okay, can everybody see that? Looks good? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we, just on my presentation today, just 10 minutes and it will be fairly quick. Everything has context to it. So we have to see the South African agriculture, agribusiness environment within the major global and African environment. Also in South Africa, that we'll look at the food security and the competitiveness imperative, which underpins the whole sector, confidence and growth in SA agriculture, and then major developments in the legislative and policy environment, and then we'll wrap up. Just from a global risks and challenges point of view, we are and operate within a multipolar global power dynamic. I think it'd be very evident from the recent G7 meeting and the US-China trade and technology war and a whole lot of developments globally. Middle East tensions continue. These also impact on South Africa in terms of oil purchases, but also an export destination for our food products. Brexit impact both on the UK and the EU, and these are important markets for South African agriculture, agribusiness. I think Brexit was alluded to earlier. Very important also is globalization and Africa's demographic dividend. And would the African Continental Free Trade Agreement be a game changer for Africa? Perhaps just to firstly look at countries by their share of their GDP, just to give you a relative indication, and China and India, sorry, this is population, just to give you an indication of the country's population and where the mouths are that have to be fed in the world. And we'll see that obviously a lot in Asia, but also Africa and many other countries. But we also need to look at their GDP, the size of their economies. And you will see that the United States and Canada is roughly 25%, Asia roughly 25%, Europe roughly 25%, that's the green countries, and then the rest of the world another 25%. South Africa only about 0.4% of global GDP. So we also have to look at where can we sell our produce as we are a net exporter of food. The African continent is very interesting, just over 1 billion people. Currently, this will double to 2 billion by 2050, and then again double to 4 billion by 2100. So the population growth rate by far the highest across all continents in the world. Now, this is either a massive opportunity also or a critical risk, because Africa is food insecure in many countries, especially those areas that have high fertility rates or birth rates. So this is a huge challenge in terms of a market that may develop. But if Africa does not get its food systems in place, it also creates a very big risk and migration that will stem from it, as actually is happening at the moment. So interconnectivity remains a massive driver, and the fourth industrial revolution, also in terms of technology and increasing productivity and developing food systems across the world. But we also see that greater localization and greater protectionism from countries, especially in the food business across the globe, which is a challenge for countries like South Africa that are net exporters and probably Ireland as well. So we see some mass migration due to political instability, conflict and globalization. This remains a global trend, and after COVID will again intensify. The issues of environmental sustainability have been raised around climate change, extreme weather, water availability and quality, especially in a drought-prone country like South Africa, biodiversity loss, pollution, waste, fossil fuels, etc. Biosecurity issues are huge in the human space, but also in animals and plants. The previous presentation alluded to that. And then obviously the rebound in global GDP is positive and will hopefully stabilize markets again. Right, so from a South African point of view, it's no secret that there's a lot of political turmoil and uncertainty, and this translates into policy uncertainty, especially in land reform, which obviously impacts on the South African agriculture, agribusiness environment, also on investment, etc. We see the intended changes to Section 25 of the Constitution and some developments there that are concerning, especially around the terms of custodianship, etc. We believe that President Ramaphosa in February 2021 pointed us in the right direction. The problem is the capability of the state to implement, and we have seen that this capability has been badly eroded in departments and state-owned enterprises. Our biggest concern in South Africa must be lack of gross domestic product growth, competitiveness decline, and also escalating debt, which puts our currency and at risk, and our ability of our government to provide services. So massive unemployment in South Africa is a huge problem, as is the inequality. We see service delivery protests increasing and becoming more violent. Land and water reform are at the centers of populist demands. We see that with the Reserve Bank, but also with the expropriation without compensation decision. Crime and security, including corruption, farm and rural safety are an increasing concern, and even the rule of law under pressure in South Africa. These are unfortunately the realities that we have to deal with. Some of them are in the aftermath of the state capture situation. I think government is, and one must give them credit for that, trying to re-establish rule of law and to deal with the matter of corruption in South Africa. We've seen the rural decline. This has been well publicized by my colleague, Chief Economist Wandeli Sihlobo lately, in many newspapers and magazines, etc. Right, if we look at food security and the competitiveness imperative, we follow very strongly the Economist's Global Food Security Index. I happened to participate in the launch of the 2020 index very recently, and South Africa rates pretty well in terms of Africa within the top 1 or 2, because we have a pretty good commercial sector. We have good affordability of food. Our food is generally value for money very good. There's sufficient quantities available generally. The problem is the ability of households to have access to foods in terms of buying power. And so we have about 20% of households that are food insecure simply because they are not in the mainstream economy, do not earn enough to access food. And that's why we have the welfare grant rolled out to more than 17 million South Africans, a third of South Africans. Our big risk is also in our natural resources and resilience, especially around water, land and the environment. And being a drought prone and sensitive country, there are certain risks involved in that. But generally our food security is not bad, but we need to continue looking at how we improve that. Competitiveness imperative is very well established through the World Economic Forum. South Africa has been in very serious decline 2016, 2017, 2018, but has improved as the administration under President Ramaphosa has tried to, and is still in the process of setting the country right economically again. But there are many structural reforms economically that we still have to implement, and these impacts on the agriculture, agribusiness sector. We also measure the competitiveness of the South African agriculture sector, and there was a decline up until about 2007, and since then our competitiveness has increased considerably. That is our ability basically to put our products on the global market at a price equal to or lower than the international price and still make profit. Right, if we look at confidence and growth in the South African agricultural sector, obviously in a country that is very prone to weather variability, as is South Africa, then it will vary considerably from year to year. Generally, however, last year our primary agriculture gross domestic product on a year-on-year basis increased by 13%, which was a windfall for South Africa, in which our total economy contracted by 7.1%. So the food sector or the agricultural sector certainly helped to boost and soften the blow from COVID. We have had very good conditions last year, and then again this year, conditions are still positive. We see that expected GDP growth for 2021 will be 5% up. This will be from a higher base, while the growth, the 13.1% in 2020, was from a lower growth. Agricultural jobs have been increasing since 2012, when the National Development Plan was released, but we're more or less at the same level as before the great financial crash in 2009, 2010. And you can just see the dip again in March, April in 2020, and that was because of the COVID lockdown. It's starting to pick up slowly again. The agricultural sector is one of the few sectors that is growing. We see that our agribusiness confidence index, which we do, is at the highest level in 20 years since we started the index. And so there is, because of good production conditions and good prices, generally quite a lot of optimism in the whole agri-food sector in South Africa. And we see that also in the results from companies and balance sheets of farmers, etc., that there has been a significant turnaround after the droughts of 2015, 2016, and again 2018, 2019. Just looking at our export figures, very important graph on the left-hand side is that you'll see the dark column. That's our exports have been increasing, and this is in US dollars, so it's not depreciation of the rand. It's in US dollars. We are increasing our exports, and the past 2-3 years have been over 10 billion US dollars per annum. And still increasing, while our imports are decreasing slightly. So our trade balance has been increasing positively to just over 4 billion US dollars. So where are we exporting to? Mostly into Africa, but that's very steady, might even be declining slightly. Some growth into the EU, most growth into Asia, a little bit of growth into the Americas and the rest of the world. Just gives you a sense of where we're exporting to. The purple is in Africa, and you'll see who the biggest destinations are: Namibia, Botswana, and then in Europe, Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, and then China, Japan, the biggest ones in Asia, and a bit to the United States of America. What products are we exporting? Obviously, we're the second biggest exporter of fresh citrus in the world. And that's a variety of grapefruit, soft citrus, etc. Our wines are excellent and good value for money. I'm sure, and hopefully you enjoy them as we enjoy the Irish whiskey. Our grapes also into Europe mostly, but also into many other countries: palm fruit, maize, sugar, nuts, wool, fresh and vegetable juices, fruit and vegetable juices, preserved fruits, wood, animal feed, berries, etc. are all our export crops, and these go to various destinations across the world. But it's not just in our exports, also in our local production. If you look at the local production, is the blue part of the bar. Exports are the green. So you'll see that a lot of what we produce in South Africa is mostly consumed in South Africa. The fruit sector mostly exported, but livestock and food crops mostly and predominantly rely on the domestic markets. Our agri sectors have been growing around about 1.5 to 2% per annum over the last 20 years. We foresee some tapering off of that growth unless we can get some structural reforms and agree on a master plan where we work together with government and other social partners to get more growth and greater investment into our sector. So what does that engagement with government look like? We, from AgBiz side, the Agricultural Business Chamber, and you can go now to our website to see who AgBiz is, who our members are. But we represent farmers and agribusiness up and down the value chain. So we have bilaterals with government departments. We are also a member of Business Unity South Africa. I serve on the board of Business Unity South Africa. We also serve on the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development CEO Forum, and have various contacts with various departments. Very involved with NEDLAC. NEDLAC is a National Economic Development and Labour Council. There's an act that regulates this formal engagement between the social partners of South Africa, and that's government, business, labour and community. I happen to be the convener for the Trade and Industry Chamber in South Africa, which gives us a great platform to engage with Labour and government on various issues that affect our trade and industry. There are also other chambers that we are involved in. Then we also have the Public-Private Growth Initiative from Rolf Meyer and Dr. Johan van Zyl. And most importantly is the master plan process, which I head up from the business constituency side. And I'm not going to go through the slide, but this is from President Ramaphosa. We said that we are initiating the master plan process to improve or to remove impediments and constraints to inclusive growth, and then to create jobs and ignite growth is an ambitious execution-oriented industrial strategy founded on partnership between government, labour and industry, and the agriculture and agro-processing is part of it. And it's basically to direct and ensure that infrastructure, skills and incentives and other resources are directed towards where they have the greatest impact. So we are busy with this process. A couple of these master plans have been signed already. For agriculture, we've already developed the overarching agriculture agro-processor framework agreement, and we are now busy with a master action plan. That's more the targets and that we want to implement in the process. Right, then just to wrap up, generally South Africa's agriculture or agri-food industry is pretty healthy and robust, but it does face various challenges and risks, as I've indicated. These are broad from the investment environment, logistics, water availability and quality, environmental sustainability, R&D, crime and security, labor relations, land reform, climate change, droughts, trade agreements, sustainable transformation, etc. But the opportunities are also there. Growing population, as I indicated, consumer spending trends, new markets, especially Africa and Asia, new technologies, improved productivity, etc. So our sector is a major contributor to food security, growth and employment. It's a major South African asset, but so do we also live in uncertain times. Many risks, many variables, some controllable, others not and or less so. So we have to understand these risks, but these risks also create opportunity, and we have to concentrate on those risks and opportunities that we can understand and that we can manage to grow our country and to collaborate with other countries such as Ireland to ensure that we benefit both ways from that collaboration. So thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a great privilege.
Thank you, Dr. Purchase. You know, I hung on to every slide and I really enjoyed every piece of information you delivered. From what you're saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, despite the overall drop in competitive advantage and GDP growth, it sounds like agriculture is a great foundation and mainstay. And I salute people like yourselves and your colleague Wandile and others who are actually like driving the strategies that support the exports and the strengthening of the agri sector. So thank you very much for that very informative presentation. Would you be open to others reaching out to you if they have other questions?
Yes, obviously our sector is very complex and way more detailed than what overview that I gave. Everybody is welcome to contact me at any time. You do have my contact details. They can just contact you through me, or they can just go onto our website. Just Google AgBiz, and our website is up to date and very informative. And most welcome to reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly. And last but certainly not least is Ms. Claire Reid, the CEO and founder of Real Gardening. Now, I'm really excited to listen to Claire Reid, as she's the living example of a female entrepreneur that took her passion and turned it into an exciting company that not just serves like the corporate end, but also the social end of South African enterprise. Claire, I know that had this been an in-person meeting, you would have had goodie bags for us, but you know what, we'll leave that to the future. And for now, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me just get my slides up and going. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. So Real Gardening, I'll just get straight to it, is a really simple way to grow produce. We put seeds correctly spaced in a biodegradable paper tape. It also contains the nutrients that the plant needs. So when the paper decomposes, it not only acts as a little bit of a well for the plant, but it also slowly releases nutrients into the soil. It's a really simple solution that I came up with while I was still at school at the age of 16. And I've slowly grown it into a business in South Africa. We've been operational for 11 years and we've got a hybrid model running. So we're a social enterprise. We sell our product. We have a for-profit arm, but we also donate a lot of our profits into giving products to communities. And then we partner with corporate social investment or government funds to amplify that. Our big focus prior to COVID was school gardens. We had over 4,500 school gardens running around the country. We have a whole set of workbooks that link the current South African curriculum to a food garden, so enabling teachers to use the food garden as a teaching tool and not just for food. COVID hit, we saw obviously children not going to school, a lot more people needing to survive on growing food at home. A lot of the children were reliant on their one meal a day coming from the school nutrition program. That fell away in many cases due to COVID. So we had to kind of relook at what can we do at a household level and start food gardens at a household level. We also had to look at, in this age of COVID, when we're not in person doing a lot of training and hand-holding within the communities, and also just, you know, the everyday person, how do we look at helping people along every stage of their agricultural journey using technology? So we developed and ramped up our app. The Real Gardening app can be downloaded on the iOS or Google Play Store. And what happens is you put into the app exactly what you're planting that day. And the app will tell you what you need to do every day according to what you planted and when. It will even send you a reminder to water. So we're not going to tell you about trellising your tomatoes on day 2. It'll only explain it to you on day 35. And there's simple little videos, there's a troubleshooting function and a pest function. And then it enables us to use this as a monitoring and evaluation tool on the ground. And in our back end, we've been able to map exactly where community gardens are thriving, certain crops doing better in certain areas, and be able to then troubleshoot on the ground or refine our varietal choices. We've got 2 options which we work with on a community scale. The 200 square meter kits, you can see that top garden there, that's in the Degale province, Degale part of Limpopo province. That area hasn't received rain in close to 4 years. So it's really, really imperative that our product saves water, and we advocate that you only need 2 liters of water a day per 4 square meter area. So it really does make a difference. And then we've partnered with a local South African company, EcoBuzz, with our EM effective microorganisms and other inoculants that go into our tape, which has made quite a substantial difference. This has been our main focus, though, and we're continuing to grow this this sector of our business. We create, you can see here, this is the household food garden. This will feed a family of 4 with 1 serving of vegetables a day per family member for an entire year. So it's 250 Rand for the entire year. And how we pack it is each month is packed in a clearly marked envelope. This is January. And what happens is then the family just has to plant the mixture of seed tapes that's inside this envelope during that month of the year. And the box is packed according to the province. So we do all of the crop rotation, the varietal management, all of that. We really just try.
Onto a webinar here in South Africa.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, Claire. David.
COVID and COVID.
David.
COVID travel, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Claire. Just a sec.
No worries. Cool. I'll carry on.
Oh.
So and then what we put inside as well, which has proved to be really great, is these little water spouts. You just screw it onto a 2-liter Coke bottle, and we then enable the family to just have to use 2 liters of water a day to tend to their garden, and they can use grey water, so water that has, you know, washed vegetables or that kind of thing in their household. So we've really been ramping this up. We've seen actually a lot of people also want to purchase these on our online store, either to donate or to plant in their own gardens at home. So we really are focusing on bridging that gap between the current perception is that growing your own food is only for poor people or old people. And we really are trying to change that stigma. We're getting young people to understand the amazing miracle that is germination, and getting them to understand where food comes from, and a healthy soil gives you a healthy food, gives you a healthy body, and really nurturing that from an ECD stage. And we work with NGO partners all around the country, and then we link households to well, we use the schools and the ECD centres to distribute our household gardens, and then we work with partners on the ground to establish agri hubs. These are very, very simple spaces inside communities where produce can come to be processed for selling. And at the moment, there's a huge market for sun-dried tomatoes coming out of South Africa, and sun-dried chilies. Tabasco purchase most of the chilies that are being produced through our household gardens. And then there is a company in Italy that is purchasing most of the sun-dried tomatoes. So really looking at how we can create income streams through adding additional crops like chilies, tomatoes, some of the herbs to the household gardens, and then linking that household to the agri hub so that they're able to feed their family, but that they're also able to now participate in local economic development. And that's really, in a nutshell, I just don't want to take too much of everyone's time. That's really, in a nutshell, Real Gardening. We sell online, www.realgardening.co.za. We are really just trying to get everyone, no matter how much space you have available, how much knowledge you have, or how much water you have, to be able to grow your own food. And then if you are that way inclined, or you have the land capacity, to then be able to grow for offtake agreements and generate an income for your family. That's us. Thank you, Ureshnie.
Thank you, Claire. I think that, well, I think personally that is an excellent example of how a company, a locally grown company, is able to address the issues of water scarcity, climate change, the issue of food security, and ensuring that people are capable of feeding themselves irrespective of the low purchase or low buying capacity that we obviously have in this country, as Dr. Purchase explained. And you combine it beautifully with science, educating people, very similar to how Auranta also takes their science to that next level. So thank you for sharing this with us. I hope you don't mind if people reach out to you as well. Would that be okay?
No, that's lovely. I've put all of the details in the chat. Please reach out. We love collaboration. We love looking at how we can just get more people to get growing, and really looking at leveraging partnerships to be able to do that. So please reach out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to every single one of our speakers here today, to the BISA team, to our embassy colleagues, the ambassador, for everybody who took the time to make this special. I will now hand over to my colleague, Johnny, who will facilitate the question and answer section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ureshnie, and thanks again to all our guest speakers. That's been absolutely amazing to hear all the information. I've learned so much today. There's connections already happening on the chat there. I have a visitor here, as you can see. And it's clear then that there's lots of opportunities to be made there. So just before we go, there's a couple of questions for John Cullen. And John, just I'll put them both to you. I think while I was researching Auranta, I was looking into some of the videos and seeing some of the dairy farmers discussing crypto. And I got a rude awakening when I found out they weren't talking about Bitcoin and the blockchain. But anyway, the questions to you were, what do you, how do you describe a small farmer as your target market? And what would that look like in South Africa? And secondly, what is your citrus extract source? And it's probably a bit of a nod to John Purchas's comments of the SA being the biggest exporter, or their biggest market being citrus.
Okay, thanks. The first question, our range of farmers, depending on, like with our partners, we want to be able to go to somebody who has 20 chickens, not that, or they can come to us through our partners. So we want to break it down to that small. In Ireland, the average size dairy farmer we would go to is about 100 cows, although a small number would have up to 1,000. And then when we get our approval to sell our dairy calf products in South Africa, which we hope to have very soon, we would have two areas again. We'd start off mostly going to the commercial farms, but then work our way back into some of the smaller guys then, as well as we build up our network. On the citrus, we bring in citrus extract from many different places around the world, and we blend and mix it and match it to suit our requirements. Obviously, the person who's asked the question, if I'm more than happy if they want to contact me by email, and I can talk in more detail with them on it. Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, John. So good luck in your next phase in South Africa, and hopefully we'll hear from you again. And welcome to BISA. And
just unmute yourself, John. We just lost you there for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so just saying thanks very much, John. Good luck in your next phase in South Africa, and hopefully you won't be a stranger. We'll see you again, and welcome to BISA.
Absolutely. Listen, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody this morning. It's not something I do very often, as you probably guessed, but listen, thanks a million anyway, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been brilliant to hear your story. So I think we've run out of time now, so I don't see any more questions outstanding there, and a few have been answered already. So thanks everybody for joining, and then just keep an eye out on BISA's social media on our website for our next events. We're looking to put together a Lions Tour event at the moment, so that's quite exciting for next month. And then we have some other really interesting events coming up for the rest of the year. So thanks for everybody for joining, our members and hopefully new members, and we'll see you again at our next session. And we'll do our best to share the presentations where possible, and we'll get back to you on some of your questions and hopefully make some great connections. And thanks everybody for joining.